Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Daily Ignite. With me today I've got Julian Redding, and he's written this great book called The Sales Journey, and we're going to talk about that today. Now, I'm actually going to say this to Julian: I've read pretty much every single sales and marketing book is out there, and if you're in B2B enterprise, I actually think you should get a copy of this, because he actually says a whole load of things that are not. Most sales and marketing books say the same thing. You know, there's a number of differences. Deb Calvert's one about asking questions is focused on asking questions. So if you want to know about asking questions, that's a really good book to go for. But most of them say the same thing. And what Julian's actually done is actually created something that is, we were talking before we came online. I think it's something that you'd end up carrying around with you. So I'm just saying that I've read it and I'm endorsing it. So I think it's a good book. And I wanted you, Julian very kindly sent me a copy, and we're going to talk about it today. And Julian, before we go anywhere, I always ask people, where can people find you?
You can email me direct, julian.redding, READING, at salesjourney.co.uk, or please connect with me on LinkedIn and let's start a conversation there. So either or.
And where can I buy a copy of your book?
On Amazon. It's on Amazon, $6.99. And Tim, all the profits are going to Chestnut Children's Hospice.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So you're doing a bit for charity as well.
Yeah.
So I've usually I have like loads of notes to go to, but I'm actually going to go through your book because I've made some notes in your book.
Awesome. Thank you.
But the obvious question is because you start the book with a great metaphor of a deal that you were going on, but why is it that you wrote the book?
I wrote the book because I wanted to create something different, Tim. You know, I love what I do. I love being in sales enablement. I love being a salesperson, and yet every book that I had ever read was very prescriptive, and I couldn't get engaged with it. So I wanted to write something that talked to the person who was reading it, that shared with them stories, shared my experience. And whenever I'm coaching, and I hope this is coming through in the book, I talk about taking the information, absorbing it yourself, and then applying it in your own way. Because I believe that you can't teach someone how to sell, but you can add to their skill set. Yeah. And I wanted to create something like that. I wanted to create something different. And I wanted to create something that someone goes, oh, I can use that. I can do something different. Because
so you've been in sales pretty much on and off all your life.
Yeah.
You tell a great little story at the start about how you thought you were Mr. Sales, and you got a job at Siebel, wasn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
The CRM vendor, and they were like market leader. And you turn up in what you thought was your fantastic supersonic BMW.
Yeah.
And you were meeting the key account director or the account manager for that account.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Well, he was, I actually thought I was going to help him, Tim. You know, I'd come from being this guy that made 100 cold calls in the morning, 12 meetings a week. I would hammer my customers with a great PowerPoint and buy by Friday because there's discount for you. I thought I was this great sales guy. So I go to this meeting, and I want you to picture this beautiful black S500 AMG Mercedes pulling in, and I'm sat there in my BMW, and it's Andy, and he beckons me over, and I open up the car door of his Mercedes, and I'm hit by a smell of new leather. I sit in this seat that's almost tailor-made for me, and you've got to bear in mind this is going back to 1999. Andy sits there and he unfolds this massive piece of paper, and he said, "Julian, listen." And he started talking to me, and I'm thinking, what's he talking about? He's saying,
you're an account man, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was going, well, this guy here, he's motivated by this. This is the language he's going to use. This is how we're going to plan the conversation. This is what this person needs to achieve. This is what the CTO needs to achieve. This is our strategy for here. This is and he started breaking down this massive deal going everywhere, even down to what language he was going to use, talking to the different people, what question types he was going to use him to engage the room. And I just thought, wow, what a waste of time. And then I looked at my BMW, and I looked at his Mercedes. I looked at his my BMW, looked at his 100 grand Mercedes, and I thought, wow, what an idiot you are, Julian. And that moment, a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
it was all about how you need to understand the psychology, how you connect, how you build relationships, how you build trust. And from that moment on, I devoted myself to being a sales practitioner, to making myself an expert at my art, because I wasn't a good salesperson.
This is why I've said this book is for B2B enterprise. If you're selling transactional deals, you're calling somebody up and it's a low value, the book isn't for you. This is for somebody where you're selling 10, 100, $500 million deals, and you're transforming organizations.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Big ticket sales.
Yeah. I love that story. It's a great story. One of the things that you talk about, which I think is really important, and you hit me with in chapter 2, which is belief systems. Yeah. The fact that we believe that we can't do stuff.
Well,
so talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I wanted someone to do reading the book was do something they weren't going to do.
Yeah.
Because that's how you change your future. And understanding that we actually, as human beings, and especially in sales, we limit ourselves with limiting beliefs. I'm not going to call Tim at 4 o'clock because he's probably busy, and I'll put it off till tomorrow. Well, the two things we know in life as salespeople are our target and number of days to hit it.
Yeah.
The more procrastination we do, the more we're going to miss our target. So if you can identify those beliefs and identify they're limiting, they're holding you back, then you ask yourself what it's costing you. And then when the action to change, guess what? You change your future, Tim. So I wanted early on for people to understand that we hold ourselves back. And here's a plan to start changing your own future, putting yourself in charge of your own destiny and creating a new future for yourself.
Yeah, and you walk through that really nicely in terms of getting people to understand the beliefs. And you even, at the end of this chapter, as in with all the chapters, you give a little exercise, not jumping up and down, but here's your exercise. Identify your limiting belief. Write down where it's costing you. Create an action plan to address. And I think we all have things that we don't believe that we can do. And in sales, as you say, we put off making that call.
Yeah.
There was a guy that worked for me that we used to joke that he used to organize his paper clips on his desk, before he did anything, because he had to find something else to do. And I used to have a one-to-one with him every 3 o'clock on a Friday, and for an hour. And I remember him saying, and it was like, you need to prospect more. Yeah, I'll do that on Monday, Tim, Monday at 9 o'clock. Yeah, but we finished the call at 4 o'clock. Why can't you do an hour of prospecting from 4 till 5? I'll do it on Monday. Do you do it? He didn't.
And that is a limiting belief, and that cost him. And what was it costing him? Costing him sales, costing him conversations, potentially costing him his job. And that is a lot of salespeople. It's not only about putting off doing things. It's about, I don't believe I can because. So we self-sabotage. This is about, I talk about our psychological rules in the book. And something we do is self-sabotage ourselves. Ask a 5-year-old 5 things they want for Christmas. Oh, I want Batman, Superman. Ask an adult 5 things they want. I don't know. So we do self-sabotage, but in sales, we do it especially because it's an emotive engagement. We're being judged. It's pass or fail. There is there's no middle ground. So we do put things off and we sabotage ourselves. So this is the first thing I wanted someone to do: change your future.
Yeah, and I think that talking about the cognitive things that are holding us back, I think is really good, because what I've seen in what I see in sales is what I call people that are scared of heights. Yeah. So the higher they go up, they feel scared about it, or they're scared of asking for a lot of money.
Yeah,
I remember. In many years ago, I used to live in Liverpool, and my wife, as she was at the time, used to run a newspaper there. And I remember sitting there at a table one night, and I'd just come back, and it was like Friday night, and I was bored. So I turned to the bloke next to me. I said, "So what do you do?" He said, "I'm the leader of Liverpool City Council." I said, "Oh, right, okay." So and he said, "Are you the journalist?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay, we'll have a chat then." So I said, You know, and I just got to start asking him questions because of my own curiosity. So what does it take to be leader of Liverpool City Council? He's just a person out on a Friday night, you know, like, and wanting to have a chat, and you know, so everybody that you meet is just an ordinary human being with a story to tell.
But what's special about that, Tim, is that you gave yourself the gift of curiosity years ago, and you became curious.
Maybe, but that's probably more about me being the fact that I've got nothing to. I think if you think you've got nothing to talk about, get the other person to talk, and that's the thing. So we moved on. So the next thing about curiosity and questioning is you talk about the art of discovery, which is the most critical thing, because this is where you structure everything, you qualify everything. No, I need to shut up. Talk us through your chapter on the art of discovery.
Well, I give everyone a framework that's based on NLP. Just to step back, I've got a master's
what's NLP, Julian?
Sorry, yes, I'll step back. It's neuro-linguistic programming. I hold a master's in neuro-linguistic programming and behavioral science. I believe everything psychological is biological, and that initial discovery call is so important. Gone are the days of machine gunning situation questions. We're not at rank Xerox in 1980. This is all about discovering. And what I say in the book, which is the big paradigm shift, my job in discovery is to help my customer qualify they want to work with me. And that's about building trust. It's about getting them to talk about what their perception of value is, and about me being able to reframe what I do based on their outcomes. Not about bringing up a PowerPoint with all these customers that we sell to and you're stupid if you don't buy. Discovery is all about qualifying our customer wanting to work with us. And I've built a framework, Tim, that people who buy the book will see. It's a step through process to actually build to that outcome.
Yep. So talk us a little bit about that, because you talk about investigate, explore and visualize, don't you? And open, control and confirm.
Yeah. So it goes sort of 1 to 9 on those things, and the questions actually form an NLP validation path. And the investigate at the start, see, I want to put the mind of a salesperson into the mind of the person who he's talking to. I want him to investigate first of all before he starts selling. It's only at the latter stage, Tim, should we be visualizing based on our insights that we found through our questioning process. Whereas the typical mistake that salespeople make, they jump in too quick to the solution. It's so important to understand that person's perception. And we're all visual people, how we describe things. We describe things what good looks like. So that's why I've built the framework. It's not about 100 situation questions. It's about taking your customer through a journey of discovery.
Yeah, and I like the way that you talk about, because what salespeople generally do is leap in with a solution, isn't it? Because hey, I've got a solution in my kit bag, and it's kind of punching, it's trying to punch out and get, and I can't wait to unzip that bag and get my solution out on the table.
Yeah.
And the thing is actually we miss questions, so I interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago called Paul Watts, he's English, but he's based in just outside Calgary in Canada. And he has a phrase saying, which is that one of the things that they do is out question the competition. He said that we may not outsell the competition, but we will out question them. And what you do is you provide a framework in terms of that, which is not about turning up with spin or whatever it is. It's about being curious, being really curious about the business. Because you talk about the background that you need to go into. You talk about turning up, and I totally agree with this. Having read the company accounts, however desperately dull they are, I've sat in meetings where I've basically quoted from the annual accounts, and actually the people around the room go, "Does it say that? I didn't know that. I haven't even read them myself." But the fact that you took the time to read them, immediately you can feel the change in the room. This guy's actually done his homework.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm all about firing mirrors. Okay, when I'm talking, so your mirror neurons. One little tip just for everybody listening today, Tim. I've always hated the elevator pitch, because I don't know about you, I've never sold anything in an elevator. Not once. I stand there and I usually just look at the floor. What I do if I'm presenting to an executive to the board level and they ask me to explain my company, I would have researched the values of the company I'm selling to, and I reframe those values based on what I deliver using their language. And immediately they start identifying with me. We trust people who are like us. We fire mirror neurons to people who are like us. The more you understand you are selling to your customer, not selling at your customer, the more you start selling. Understanding their language. I talk a lot in the book about the language of the customer, their perception of value. It is absolutely vitally important that that research is done. So as you know what language to use, you can talk about things. The biggest mistake I see with people going into executives is they haven't researched what their goals are, what they need to achieve.
And you actually give a number of this. I like the fact that you give a number of case studies in here about situations where this is the sales situation. This is and so you actually give a number of those case studies.
Well, there was a little bit of a reason for that, Tim. Is that I've met a lot of people that seem to have swallowed a book at an airport and all of a sudden they're a sales trainer. Yeah. Everything I talk about is experiences, and I love the power of a story. You know, I'm a big storytelling salesperson. People connect to stories. We are storytellers. And, you know, I talk in my book about having 3 stories ready in discovery. So when you're in that initial discovery stage, already have prepared. So you've got 3 stories about something your company does that you can reframe to what your customer wants to achieve. The social proof side of persuasion.
Yeah. And so the other thing that I liked is this is in chapter 5, you introduced the MEDDPICC sales methodology. I mean, you talk about some of the other sales methodologies, which I know that you have experience of. Yeah. Being as I'm not going to test you, but it stands for metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, path to funds, identify pain, champion, and competition. Yeah. And I mean, it's such a great way of, I always talk to people about, you know, Steve Jobs wore the same clothes, not the same clothes, but he wore a black top and jeans every single day, because what he wanted to do was actually focus his mind on other things, not when he gets up, what am I going to wear? Yeah. And what this does is it actually gives people a very, very easy tick box process to go, okay, what are the metrics? Yeah. Who's the economic buyer? Discuss. This
is the foundation of selling. This is modern sales enablement. We should all know multiple methodologies. Tim, how many do you know? How many books you read?
About 4 or 5.
And you apply the components in context to each situation, but you don't build a house without foundation. What my company Sales Journey does is all about deal inspection, about changing and creating that global language. So no matter what you're working on, whether it's pre-sales or salespeople, or in particular sales leaders, to be able to qualify what the next best action for advancement is on any account. If I tell you I'm going to close $1 million deal, Tim, at the end of the month, and you say, who's the economic buyer? And I go, I don't know. You're going to say, guess what, Julian? You're not. The key thing, after everyone says to me, Julian, how can we sell wider? How can we sell to the C-suite? How many times do you hear that? I need to get to the C-suite. That's decision process. Understanding the motivations by line of business, what the decision-making criteria is. And I talk about finding the no in my book. That is my motivation as a salesperson. So all across those different lines of business, who are the decision makers? Who are the influence? And I do a thing on rank versus influence as well. Influence for me is a key thing. Yes. So I look to map that across decision process. Everything in MEDDPICC is the immutable law. Every stage is what you should be doing to sell. And then you apply methodology to it. It changes behaviors. It's what I've used to turn around my last 3 businesses.
So when you say getting to know, what do you mean by that?
Getting to know, sorry, in what context?
What? Sorry, you were saying getting to know. You said one of the things I need to do with MEDDPICC is to get to know.
Oh, right. So you get to know where you are in the deal at any point. Sorry, Tim. Where you are at any point that you know the next best action to do.
Right.
So, for example, how can I sell to you if I haven't got a compelling event? I haven't identified the pain.
Yes.
If I can't tell you the business case, the metrics, the ROI, the what's in it for me, if I haven't got a champion, if I haven't identified path to funds, the slippage word comes into sales all the time, Tim. Slippage is typically because we haven't agreed terms and conditions early enough and the deal's gone to the next quarter. All those things are critical. In my last role, I even got product marketing to produce MEDDPICCs for all the new products that they brought out.
Right.
So they actually had to say what the business case was for the new functionality they're bringing out.
Fantastic.
So it just aligned the whole business. But for me, this is the future of sales enablement. Understanding right from the front how we're going to inspect a deal and how we're going to set next best action for advancement.
Yeah, and for me, it's a very straightforward process of, if you understand sales. And the thing is, as a salesperson, what generally happens is you become so wrapped up in the here and now that you're not necessarily thinking about what the next stage is. No. But as you say, how many times have we been in a situation where you say, you talk about, okay, so how is the business going to be? How are we going to take the business? Well, the person's just going to sign. No one just signs. It has to go somewhere, and they have to probably write a report, and there has to be a business case, and there's probably lawyers involved.
Yeah.
And we have to be set up as a supplier for a purchase order to be raised. So what is this process? And the person looks at you and goes, don't know what you're talking about. It's like, well, it's not going to happen this month, and is it?
And that kills, because two things, target number of days.
Yeah.
My last company, Tim, they'd missed their number for 12 out of the last 13 quarters.
Yeah.
And they hit it the first quarter using MEDDPICC because they had a framework to inspect and set next best action. Changes behaviors, changes the way people sell. And for me, what it does is ensure that we put the customer first. Because we're going decision process. We're understanding all the people and what their perception of value is. We're building the business case at the start. We're thinking about the customer. We're not selling the product. Because if you notice, it's only in decision criteria are we talking about the product. But I ask everyone to reframe the USP of the product they're selling based on decision process line of business and that person's perception of value to the decision maker and influencer. It's a big piece of to do, but you're going to win more business doing it.
Julian, that's fantastic. What a great way to end the discussion. Just to remind people that this is Julian's book, The Sales Journey. If you're in B2B enterprise sales, you need to get a copy and read it. Julian, where can people get hold of you?
So, as I said, please email me, julian.redding, READING, @salesjourney.co.uk. or connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message.
You're pretty social, aren't you, anyway? So
very much so after reading your book, Tim. Yes, which I will endorse. It's the best book on social I've ever read. Changed my game altogether. So yeah, awesome.
Okay, Julian, thank you so much for coming on and sharing us your journey and sharing your book with us. Fantastic. And as I say, you can get it on Amazon, can't you? Because people always ask me, even though I keep saying to you can get it on Amazon worldwide, and they go, where'd you get it from?
Yeah, just search The Sales Journey on Amazon. It's there, $6.99. As I say, all profits are going to Chestnut Children's Hospice. Please check it out. It will change the way you sell.
Fantastic. Julian, thank you so much for coming on today. I told you it does go very, very quickly, but thanks for coming on and sharing your insight.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was a real honor. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Take care, Julian. We'll see you soon.